All right, boys, that's 3 points. Lot to talk about, as always. Not a great performance from FC Barcelona. Some really worrying things. Some really good things, like good takeaways from this match, though. And I think that's the biggest part of this. 3 points, 4-2 win against Celta Vigo, who have been incredibly problematic to Barcelona in the past couple of years. And historically, they've been very solid, very problematic, and they were problematic yet again today, right? You highlighted by Frankie de Jong being sent off, conceding several goals, threatening several other times, making Barcelona's high line look like a joke, like it has in the past, 8 months, whatever, since the Inter match. It is not the greatest performance by any means. I think there were some good changes that went into the second half, because that first half, we needed changes. It was just terrible football from a lot of guys. It just doesn't look good. They played that same high line they did against Real Madrid, against in the Champions League as well, and it thankfully worked out, right? Barcelona scored a couple, got, I think, a fortunate handball called. We've seen stuff like that not get called, aka Tchouaméni's against Liverpool. But I mean, it got called, and we made it, and I think that was good. Then we scored. I think Robert Lewandowski put in a really good finish there, and then he finished incredible cross from Marcus Rashford. Really nice link up there between them. Lewandowski looked really solid today. I think that's another important takeaway, that him getting healthy. Ferran Torres looked healthy. He's always looked better as a super sub from day one of him playing for FC Barcelona, but it's nice to see that can still happen. And I think developing that setup where Ferran Torres comes in, maybe in the 55th minute, 60th minute for Lewandowski, or for Rashford, or for Lamine, whoever it is, I think is a really good thing moving forward, because he did look pretty solid, even though he didn't get a ton of service as the second half. That's kind of just what happened. Barcelona sat back a little bit. They were a little bit more lenient with that high line, though they were definitely still holding it in a couple of worrying moments. There was some pragmatism in the way they played it, where one or two players would drop back to cover a run instead of just automatically playing it onside, and I think that worked to our advantage. We saw guys like Gerard Martin clean something up right at the end in a similar situation where three of the back four were running forward or holding the high line, but Martin marked the run, and it was able to work out because he was able to cover the space there. I think we did score, and I think that's great. I think we got rather fortunate, didn't create the best chances, and didn't finish a lot of chances. I'm looking at you, Danny Olmo. We didn't look very threatening for a while, and I think it's a symptom of not having as much pressure on the ball. I think Barcelona did look better at doing that throughout this game a little bit, and Hansi Flick talked about, he said two problems, as the commentators kept saying, where Barcelona's high line is too high, and their pressure on the ball is not good enough. Therefore, that's like double compounding the issues of Barcelona's high line being exposed this season. Both of those issues make it worse. Today, I think they were, in the first half, still playing a pretty bad high line, very high, and it wasn't really working out. Obviously, they were just booting it forward, scored two very easy goals. Szczesny was bypassed like nothing. Part of me wishes Iñaki Peña was back there, because he was just coming out of his net like crazy, and I think that's what we need. We need a young kid back there who can run like that. That's something Joan Garcia has shown that he can do. He can come out of his box. Szczesny is not good at it. He's 6'6" of a 36-year-old man. Of course, he's not great at it. And he doesn't do it anymore. It just doesn't really take the risk very often. And because of that, Barcelona is able to allow a lot of guys just to get in behind. And the high line was working a couple of times, but it obviously didn't. They got two. Thankfully, Barcelona were able to keep up with it thanks to a really good cross from Rashford and a really good finish to Lewandowski. A great run from him as well. It looked decent, and I think Lewandowski looked really good, as I said earlier. And then in the second half, it felt like we had some control finally, where in the first half we just didn't at all. They changed, obviously, something with the way they were maintaining the ball and just putting maybe a little bit more pressure. We were able to win it back in a couple of instances in a better position, in a more forward position, as you would assume from a team that is holding this high line, holding this high field position. To do that, you can only justify it because you're winning the ball back in dangerous areas, and you're putting a ton of pressure where the other team can't really do very much. That happened a little bit more in the second half, and they were able to obviously defend better. They didn't concede, and I think that's huge for a team that's been conceding like nobody's business. And to do so without Casado, where Frankie de Jong had a ton of work to do, I don't think he did it wonderfully. I think I want more from him going forward. You can't really you can't ask that from him, though, in a game where your partner is Dani Olmo in the double pivot, right? That doesn't work. You cannot be aggressive. You cannot be ambitious with your passing or your runs. And because of that, I think that puts a lot of restrictions on Barcelona's ball playing ability in the middle, where Dani Olmo doesn't run forward with the ball. And when he does, he tries to do these cute little link-ups with Lamine or when he's in the box and things like that. It doesn't come out very often and leaves a lot of questions being asked. But 3 points in a 4-2 win is the takeaway. We're going to get into the ratings to get a little bit more of a better idea of, I think, what worked and what didn't, and how some players responded to the changes that I just mentioned as well. Szczesny, not good. He hasn't really been good this season at all. Obviously is tired. Obviously, from what we've heard from his brother, from him, he doesn't want to be playing. He wants to be sitting on the bench, earning a little paycheck and just having a good time. He's earned that throughout his career too, so hopefully Joan Garcia comes back as he's supposed to at the end of the international break. That's supposed to be happening in the next 2 weeks. Huge for the program. Especially with guys like Casado going out to injury, Pedri being out to injury. We need these guys to come back. Garcia, though, one of the most important with how Szczesny has been playing. Starting off with Eric Garcia, who broke his nose and was still having to play because Koundé got injured yet again. I thought Eric Garcia was really, really solid. Not perfect, not a great defender, not the most convincing, as whoever it is, Craig Burley or whoever's the announcer likes to say. I thought he was pretty solid today, though. I think he did his job decently. I offered a decent amount of support, though. Lamine Yamal never wants to play him the ball, and I don't blame him, really, but did a fine job. I think a 6.5, 7 is fair, and looked a lot better as well in the second half, as I think a lot of the guys did. Cubarsí and Araujo, God, man, I don't know. I think they marked runs a little bit better today. Again, conceded pretty easily for 2 of them, where they were just not in the play. One of that's Balde's fault because he was holding them onside, I believe, and that's a problem. But let them defend, and it's just not showing up. I don't know, maybe a 5 or a 6. It's hard to tell when they don't have the opportunities to defend because they're playing this stupid high line that doesn't work, and they're taken out of the play completely, leaving Szczesny one-on-one, or Balde is the only one who's able to track back. I think they looked better in the second half. I think Cubarsí has so much responsibility on the ball because Araujo just has to play deep, and that was one of the main benefits. Not one of the main benefits, but a huge plus of having Inigo Martinez next to him. Inigo is incredibly competent, not only with just leading the team, but on the ball. Araujo is not. And so he's a liability. The other teams are going to press the ball to him so that, he's the one who has to make the decision, and because that's the best way to get the ball back, because he's going to make the wrong decision sometimes. In a way where Cubarsí or Eric Garcia or Koundé or Frankie de Jong or Casado won't. So I don't know. I don't really know what the solution is there. It's just frustrating, really. So fine. Balde was fine, I guess. I don't know. Couldn't really impact the game, I felt like. And then defensively held that guy on side. Defensively was fine. I don't know. Boys, it's just frustrating the way this backline has been playing, and hopefully this second half is a good sign going forward. Obviously, we have 2 weeks to kind of figure it out, but maybe half, 3/4 of these players are going on international duty, most of the starters, so I don't know. It is frustrating, but, we can be a little calm, I guess. Then moving to the midfield, man, the first half, too, I was just watching and just so incredibly frustrated that these guys could not get an ounce of calm on the ball. That's something that Pedri offered all the time, and we get it from Frankie very rarely, or sometimes, but today, especially when he has so much responsibility defensively, I don't know if he was making the best decisions either. Playing deep, having to run in behind so many times. The announcers were really glazing him. I do think he played well considering the responsibility that he had, and I always glaze Frankie. But I think, I don't know. I'm in a weird spot with him where he had a ton to do reasonably, but I also don't think he defended wonderfully. Made a couple of really good tackles, tried to fill in positions and tried to hey, this high line's not working. I'm just going to drop and try and cover the space. It didn't really work for the second goal, but he's trying, and I think that's a good thing. I think he was also pretty responsible on the ball when he was able to get some calm and some responsibility and some, I don't know, just possession, which was bypassed most of the time by the long balls being played by, or the 1-2s, quick 1-2s to the front man being played by Celta Vigo. I mean, I thought he was fine. I think he was really decent considering he had so much responsibility, but overall, I do always want to see more from him. I think a solid 7.5, considering the red card. I think he's unlucky. I think looking at the replay, it's a really small touch, and Iago Aspas sells it as he always dives, like, all the time. He's one of those players that really makes the most out of small fouls. You don't see that from some guys. You see it from other guys. Iago Aspas is one of the guys that worked this time. It's frustrating. I don't know if it's a second yellow, but it is what it is. It's annoying, especially considering Barcelona are so weak in the midfield. And that brings me to Marc Bernal, but I'm going to talk about him a little bit because he came on at the end of the game. Didn't really see anything from him, but he's something to talk about for the next match. Dani Olmo, what are you doing? I not a double pivot player. I'm frustrated. He seems useless. I know you guys are at about wit's end with this guy, and I understand it. He's just not impacting the game very much. He has no cutting edge. Every time he shoots, it's either 30 yards over the bar or it bashes into the guy in front of him. He doesn't threaten the goal. He doesn't shoot from deep. I don't know what he does. I really don't get it. And defensively, obviously, he's Dani Olmo, not going to be great. In possession, he's always pretty solid, but it never, to me, is like the best pass, or it's the line-breaking pass, or it's the thing most effective. And today, playing deeper, maybe you could argue that. Obviously, it's going to be harder for him. I didn't like him 5 at best. Fermin Lopez, I think he was decent today. Had a couple of chances. You want more from him in the beginning of the game, and I think that could have silenced maybe a little bit of it or calmed the team down a little bit where they were playing to kind of recover themselves, keep up with Celta, who were able to score right back. Every time Barcelona did something, they were able to score. And it would have been nice to have that chance. I do think he linked up pretty well and was able to impact the game pretty solidly from his number 10 position. Though, I don't know, it was just a little bit chaotic, as I said, in that midfield where we weren't able to get much time on the ball there, and I think Fermin could have helped maybe a little bit there. Solid, though, 7. I think 7.5 is fair. Probably this, maybe a little bit less than Frankie, similar score. Danny was frustrating, though. Front 3, Lamine scored a solid goal. I also think he wasn't that good for a lot of the game. Couldn't really impact it, was double teamed, and maybe a lot of that's to do with Eric Garcia being the one who's supporting him, and Fermin maybe not being able to provide as much on that side because Dani Olmo's around or Lewandowski's doing, I don't know. He just really couldn't get any space to do anything, and that's not something we want to see, obviously, at all from this team, but hopefully going forward, that can change, and just, it was one of those games for him, but he ended up scoring, and we won, right? So that's a good takeaway here. Not his best performance, 6.5, maybe 7, 6. He just couldn't impact the game for a long piece of it, where guys like Rashford did right in the beginning, right? Gave that fantastic ball to Lewandowski, and he wasn't spectacular the whole time. They were talking about him not putting a ton of work in, and I understand it. He wasn't pressing a ton, even though Barcelona were winning the ball in decent areas. He wasn't tracking back a ton. It was just a frustrating game for guys, and I understand it, but you want to see a little bit more even from Rashford, even from having that great assist. You want to see them do that again, and I feel like things like that really good moment haven't been popping up a ton, didn't pop up a ton today, but really good ball for that ball. 7.5, I think is pretty fair. Lewandowski's my man of the match. Scored a really good pen. Looked really promising. Obviously, he scored a good pen. I thought it was a good pen. He kept it low under the keeper's arm. Maybe not the closest to the corner. I thought it was fine. And then I think his run to finish Rashford's ball was fantastic. So I'm going to give him a lot of credit for that. He's my man of the match. 8.5 is pretty fair in my opinion. And then the subs came in the second half there, and some I think were prominent. I like Christensen in the middle, especially when we got no depth there. Didn't look great today. Didn't really do anything besides win a couple of fouls where he dived a little bit, or dove. I don't know what the right term is. Gerard Martin came in. As I said earlier, tracked a run that was really solid. Who else came in? Bernal came in later on. Ferran Torres came in and was really, really solid. I really liked him. I'm surprised Rooney Barthez didn't come in, but I do believe that Ferran Torres looked really, really solid, and I'm excited to see him coming in as a sub more. I think he's better as a sub. I think he's better when everyone is a little tired. He's able to bring in a little bit of that energy, a little bit of that excitement, and that fiery Ferran El Tiburon-ness that he always has had. I want to see more of that, and I think with Lewandowski starting, as I think Lewandowski showed today he deserves to for the next few games, at least, seeing how he recovers and stays in form. That brings me to Bernal, which I've been really excited about to talk about since the beginning of this video, where Bernal has gotten no game time at all this season, and I think I've seen a lot of comments from you guys complaining about it. And I think it's obvious that Hansi Flick's being very careful with these ACL guys. It's the same exact thing he did with Gavi last season. Babied him into the game, barely played at all because he didn't want him to re-hurt himself. It happened to Eder Militao. It's happening all over world football with these guys playing so many minutes. Their ACL injuries are just showing up and showing up and showing up if they're rushed back, or, a lingering issue is coming up after it, like Gavi's other injury, whatever it was. It's kind of like a gateway drug to other injuries, this ACL thing. And Hansi's probably trying to be very careful with Bernal. He's long, he's lanky, maybe he's gotten a lot stocky or bigger, not stocky because he's 6'4" or whatever. But he's putting on a little bit more weight. I think that's all good and also maybe bad because it supports his knee, but also puts more strain on it. I don't know if we'll see him start. With Christensen coming in before him, I think it's an obvious sign that Hansi is babying him like crazy. Frustrating to a lot of you guys, frustrating to me as well, but hopefully that changes. Maybe in the next couple, starts getting maybe 30 minutes, but I can't imagine he starts like the announcers were saying with how little time he has been getting, and with the simple fact that that is how Hansi has been treating this ACL injury because he did it with Gavi last season. But boys, 3 points is 3 points. We get a little break for the next 2 weeks. No more football, which I see tweets on Twitter all the time. I see tweets on Twitter. Wow, that's just groundbreaking from me. Wow. But talking about how, I'm going to be without Barca football for a little while. I think right now that's a good thing. We're going to be without that high line for a little while. And again, I think that's a good thing. So I'll see you guys when that comes back. If any news pops up, I'll make a video about it. And I'll see you guys later. Peace, everybody. Have a good one. See you later.